Now, last night was the first night we saw Mayor Bloomberg enter the debate. And there was a lot of fanfare from MSNBC. You even had Andrew Yang, who is now taking a job as a CNN contributor, saying, well, this is going to be Bloomberg's night. Sorry, Andrew, but that tweet aged very, very poorly because he got utterly destroyed, dismantled by even people like Amy Klobuchar. All right, so now he is, of course, the so-called last hope of the DNC elite and also utterly terrible debater. All right. Now, throughout the night, Bloomberg kept giving smug, really bad answers. For example, his refusal to release female accusers, the 64 of them from non-disclosure agreements. He came out in favor of hydraulic fracturing. He blamed India for China's involvement in climate change and many other terrible, terrible things. However, his fate was sealed long before any of those statements, about 5 minutes into the debate, when this moment happened.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another. This country has worked for the rich for a long time and left everyone else in the dirt. It is time to have a president who will be on the side of working families and be willing to get out there and fight for them. That is why I am in this race, and that is how I will beat Donald Trump.
She brought a 2x4, and she was not afraid to use it. And so I absolutely loved that moment. You could see how uncomfortable Bloomberg looked during that entire thing. Like, not good, right? It was beautiful to see. And look, so when you think about it, this is exactly what Elizabeth Warren needed. Her campaign was not doing very well. I think that at this point, she started to ignore the Obama staffers. Whether it's too late for her campaign, look, I don't know. I'm not really even going to talk about that or really address that because that's not really the point of the segment. But when it comes to taking on billionaires, right, bankers, well, that's her wheelhouse. Elizabeth Warren is at her best when she's on the attack against a certain type of person. And that person is, of course, someone like Bloomberg. And so this was such a good moment, right, that somebody online ended up changing his information on Wikipedia to say, well, that he had died on February 19th. The cause of death, Elizabeth Warren. And that's right there. That's from his Wikipedia. Ouch, man. Look, whatever you think of Elizabeth Warren, I thought that was an excellent moment. And she actually was able to show her fighting spirit. Where was that Elizabeth Warren 3 debates ago, right? And look, she was hitting everybody. She wasn't just hitting Bloomberg. She hit Sanders a couple of times. I think the effects, the impact of that was pretty negligible on Bernie Sanders, but she was hitting pretty much everyone else. And so that does show that she does still have fighting spirit. And that's always good. I think that when she was a front runner, she, was on the defense, and she does not do very well with defense. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, actually does do pretty well with defense, as he was slapping away attacks all night, especially on the whole socialism thing and his healthcare plan. Pete Buttigieg going after him about that and all that. But mostly, all the candidates pretty much went after Mayor Bloomberg. And that actually helped not only Bernie Sanders, of course, but also Joe Biden. And so Bloomberg's addition in this debate was actually incredibly helpful as everybody basically ganged up against him. So now, speaking of everyone else jumping in, we've got an attack here from Bernie Sanders on Mayor Bloomberg, which was also pretty good. Let's take a look.
Why is your revolution a better bet?
In order to beat Donald Trump, we're going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of the United States. Mr. Bloomberg had policies in New York City of stop and frisk, which went after African American and Latino people in an outrageous way. That is not a way you're going to grow voter turnout. What our movement is about is bringing working class people together, Black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, around an agenda that works for all of us and not just the billionaire class. And that agenda says that maybe, just maybe, we should join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people as a human right, raise that minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour, and have the guts to take on the fossil fuel industry.
And you pretty much know how the rest of that goes. Another great response, again, pushing him on stop and frisk. So also great, even Amy Klobuchar had a nice little moment when, of course, she said, or she brought up the idea that Bloomberg wanted some of these other candidates to basically clear the field for him. She's like, no. That ain't going to happen. Like, who do you think you are? Basically is what she was asking. So, and all of that was excellent. Now, the thing that struck me the most, right, was how unprepared Mayor Bloomberg was going into this whole thing. Did he really think he was just going to waltz in and not get destroyed on his disastrous record? He's basically a Republican. As I mentioned before, all the stuff that came out, and again, big props to Benjamin Dixon for really kind of exposing his record and finding the things that he had actually said on stop and frisk, which gave a lot of ammunition to all of these different candidates. Also the fact that he was trying to buy his way in and successfully did that. DNC rule change, that made a lot of the candidates incredibly angry, right? And so why did he think that he was going to not have to prepare for this? Or that being smug and deeply arrogant was going to help him in this debate? But here's the thing, that's who he is, right? And he's worth over $60 billion. So it's almost as if he felt like he didn't even need to prepare. Because that's part of who he is, right? I think that there's almost no way that he didn't look at anyone on the stage and think, I don't understand. I could buy you all right now, and yet you have the temerity to attack me? Again, when he was being attacked on the NDAs by Elizabeth Warren, again, bringing the 2x4, he'd rolled his eyes. Ugh, here we go again, right? I can't believe these plebs are attacking me. You're only worth you're only worth $18 million. Ugh. I could totally purchase you, and maybe I will try. Maybe I'll try to purchase you like I've been trying to buy everything else in my entire life. The guy's Donald Trump, basically. But there is one key difference. As I've been saying before, he is a lot like Donald Trump, but with no charisma. He's got none of the charisma of Donald Trump. Donald Trump, his only strength, even with the brain melt, right, which that makes him entertaining, he can actually play a crowd. Mayor Bloomberg cannot play a crowd. I struggle to understand how he even won any of his elections as mayor. He can't debate worth a crap. All he does is just throw money at everything, right? And that's it. He only gets by on the fact that he's incredibly rich. And so probably everyone around him kisses his ass, in exchange for money or possibility for favors. And maybe that's one reason he was so unprepared. He thought, no, I got this. Don't worry about it. And maybe his staffers were too afraid to actually tell him, no, here's what they're going to attack you on, and here's how you fight against that. So I don't know, man. Now, one more thing, which is pretty hilarious, right? He says he's the only guy who's able to take on Donald Trump. No, I'm the strongest. I'm the one who's tough enough. I'm a tough New Yorker, and I can take on Trump. Well, the guy on the stage literally melted. Well, not literally, but like melted in the face of attacks. There's no way he could take on Donald Trump and win. Trump Donkey Konged his way through 16 other Republicans, right? Now, to be fair, of course, none of those other Republicans were as vicious as Elizabeth Warren was. And I mean that in, of course, the most flattering way possible, because I think in order to take on Trump, you have to be sort of vicious. That's one of the problems that I've had with Bernie Sanders is that he's not vicious enough. But you put him against Donald Trump, and well, I think he's also going to bring the 2x4. Although it'll be a polite 2x4, but it'll still be a 2x4, and he'll crush him on policy. But as far as Bloomberg is concerned, I think he's done. I think this is a lot like what you saw when Tulsi Gabbard basically ended Kamala Harris's campaign. I think that Warren, as well as everyone else contributing, but I think mainly Warren just ended Bloomberg's. And if she's going to be remembered for anything in the debate or this entire election cycle, if this is the last debate that we see Elizabeth Warren in, and that's certainly possible, maybe she'll get a nice bump from this. And it's very, very possible that she will. Even if this is the last debate that we see her in, well, it's blaze of glory. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.